We turn now to the 2024 campaign, and our new CBS News poll shows former President Trump with his biggest lead yet this cycle, with support of 62% of Republican primary voters surveyed. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has dropped since our last survey. He's now at 16%. And the rest of the field remains in single digits, as most of them prepare for the primary debate coming up later this week. Our elections and surveys director, Anthony Salvanto, is here with us. Anthony, it's great to see you in person.
Good to see you.
So does it matter to these primary voters if Donald Trump is on that stage or not?
Well, he's not in a competitive race right now. Right now, they would nominate him, and it would be not close. It'd be an easy win for him. Look, there's a couple of dynamics here going on for those who do debate that I think even underpin him more, and that is when we ask voters, what do you want to hear in this debate? You get this lopsided number that wants the other candidates make the case for yourselves, but don't criticize Donald Trump. You get this paltry 9% that wants to hear critiques. And that puts the other candidates in a box. Usually you would see people trailing try to go after the frontrunner and hear preemptively. The voters are saying they don't want to hear that. That is certainly a dynamic that I think maybe limits what they can say and really underpins Donald Trump's hold, not just on this nomination contest, but really on the party.
The dynamic with Donald Trump is always different, isn't it? So have the indictments that he has had to date impacted him in any way? He's
held steady. His lead, as you said at the top, is even bigger as the rest of the field has fallen back.
So it sounds like no.
The answer is no, but it's also underpinning him in some way in this regard. He is, when we ask, why are you supporting Donald Trump? Mm-hmm. Well, among other reasons, his voters say it's to support him during his legal fights, to show that support. So in that regard, it does help him, or at least it girds that support from his substantial base. Well, the other part of this, though, if we unpack it, is why. And you see a couple of things. One is that they reject the premise of these indictments because, A, they say they're politically motivated, and that swamps any other concerns. Mm-hmm. Number one, we've seen that throughout all the indictments. Number two, they say that, well, if Donald Trump tried to stay in office, they feel it was through legal and constitutional means. That's different from other Americans who think it was illegal. But for Republicans, the reason they feel that way is that so many of them still buy what Trump was talking about in terms of a fraudulent election, those unfounded, unproven claims. But Republicans believe that. So that's how that narrative then forms that buttress against what's coming at him in the indictments. Finally, though, I've got to add this for a larger context, and that is Republicans, to a larger degree, see the U.S. political system, they tell us, as corrupt. Now, a lot of people think it's dysfunctional, but right. Republicans in particular think it's corrupt. Well, what that does is it sets up Trump for them as the honest broker for them against that system. In fact, he's winning among people who want an honest candidate. They see him as the truth teller. They think that he tells them the truth as opposed to so many other figures in life, from experts even to other media. And so what you see is that decline of faith in institutions, in the U.S. political system, in ours, in any, then sets up often the individual who has those followers to become even more important. And that seems to be what's happening here.
That's a fascinating dynamic. So for everyone else who has to show up at that debate stage, how do they differentiate themselves?
Well, I think there's one possible opening between what people say they're hearing and what they want to hear. And it's this. Republican voters tell us they're hearing a lot about Donald Trump. Now, he's the front runner, but they don't all want to hear that in part because of all the indictment news. But what they want to hear about is the economy, specifically about plans to help lower inflation, to help the economy. And in that way, they're just like all American voters at this point, right? They care about how does the price of eggs come down? How do they get to buy a house if they're trying to?
They want more policy. That's interesting. Anthony, this is fascinating. And you can find the full poll results on our website at cbsnews.com.